Alright, so it's super sucky outside today. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it is storming like hell. So we're not working on the other project. We are working on the Miata. I absolutely hate doing this, but this is just a reminder to stick around to the end of the video. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Share to your friends if you enjoy. It really helps me grow the channel. So I have, all right, we're working on the intake manifold. I've decided to finally work on this. I am gonna order the parts to purchase the heads. I think I found a set of good heads. We need to do oil pump, timing chains, all that maintenance stuff too. And then we can put the heads on it and we can put the built motor back in it, or we can put the built motor in it, and I can finally show you guys that footage. Now, what we're gonna do until then though, is we are gonna work on the intake, because this intake manifold is not gonna survive the amount of boost that we are gonna put through it with a built engine and this turbo kit. I don't know how much that is, but it's more than like 12. So we're gonna go ahead and modify it. I was trying to come up with a design that I liked, and I'll throw a picture up on the screen. I got my batteries set up here, and I was literally sitting right here just staring for probably 45 minutes the other day. That's kind of annoying me on video, so we're gonna fix that line real quick. Anyways, so I'll throw a picture up on screen. Obviously the manifold that I'm showing you is this crazy billet, multi-$1,000 piece of aluminum, but we're working with sheet metal here in my shitty wood shop. So I was trying to do these dips in the middle with a curve on the side, and I tried to do a double one, and it kind of looked like boobs. And I didn't really want that, so we decided not to do that, and I was gonna try and do like this small curve with a flat and then a harsh edge here, but I don't think the effort is worth the payoff. And I say that not disrespectfully to the people who do the billet stuff, because that stuff is crazy awesome, and I wish I could afford something like that. But working with sheet aluminum in this shitty shop that I have in Florida, like, I'm not capable of it. So the amount of effort that I'm going to put into something to try and make it have crazy curves and stuff is not going to look professional enough to be worth the effort. Now, my idea is to make a duplicate of this manifold at this point in time. Basically, this is shitty aluminum. It's like this thick that I welded stuff to. If you actually look at it at an angle, it's like all wobbly. It's not flat. This line's not straight. It kind of goes up and down, and I had to grind stuff. Like, here, look, you can see how thick it is. Right there. That's it. So, we have a mess. But our new intake. Now, this is a 1/4 inch plate. No amount of boost that I run is ever going to mess with this amount of aluminum. And I have 2 of these, one for the lower and one for the upper half, because we are staying with a similar design. As you can see, this is what I have now. I have my center line here. This is facing towards us. The throttle body plate, I haven't decided how I'm going to do all that yet exactly, but that is the idea. Let's see what we can come up with in the end. As you'll see in the video, the time lapse that I have, it fell down. I finally committed and I cut and bent this. I cut this with a circular saw, believe it or not. I actually screwed up a lot because I cut it. This is a 1/4 inch. And I cut it about halfway through, thinking that I was going to be able to just manhandle it and bend it over and then weld that little bit up. And I was wrong. It did not bend, as you will see in the video. Although I do think my GoPro died, so I don't know how much I have. Anyways, so I bent it some, and then the seam was hitting itself, so I had to cut it, bend it, and then it hit, so I had to remount it. What I'm doing is I'm mounting it down to this plywood and then cutting grooves in it with a circular saw. Believe it or not, it works really well. Like, you can, cuts right through it. You don't even have to go slow. But cutting it once it was already bent was very difficult, so I had to make this platform. All these boards are screwed down, and then this is screwed to the skill saw, and it was set in height. And then after I was all done, I set all the height of this the same as well by screwing it down, and then just running the skill saw across the surface so that when we're done, all of that stuff is smooth. This is the idea. Obviously you guys have seen the old manifold, so you know what the new manifold is going to look like. I did, however, have some space between the hood and the intake manifold, so I made the sides 1/2 inch taller. That'll help with a little bit of throttle response, I think. Real quick, last little talking point before we move on. This manifold was cracked. So I was just leaking power. We're not going to show much of it. Look at that. Ew. Yeah, I was still learning how to TIG weld whenever I took on that project, and I probably shouldn't have. I used way too thin of a material, and I didn't do a very good job welding it. So I have quite a bit of practice since then, but maybe still not enough. But we're to a point where we absolutely have to do it, because that old manifold is not going to hold up to boost. This manifold, actually, this is kind of funny. We're going to do the man test. Yeah, so it doesn't move when you stand on it, and I weigh 170, 180, so I'm not really worried about it. One thing I do need to mention, if you're going to do the circular saw thing for cutting aluminum, which it worked really well for cutting that 6061, I think, it turns your space into a strip club. There's just aluminum dust everywhere. And then last but not least, we have heads. I have them covered up because of the aluminum dust. I ordered head gaskets, so head gaskets are on the way. And then I got a random bonus at work, and that's pretty cool. So I ordered, well, I didn't order it yet, but I'm did a cart, oil pump, time chain tensioners, and some more gasket stuff. So we'll be slapping the motor back together here real soon, within the next couple weeks, hopefully. But we'll pick back up whenever I make some more progress on this manifold. So, quick update. On this piece, the intake manifold, last you guys saw it was just that little piece that I cut. So far, now we have this. Sorry, the 2x4 is here because I have already started welding on the inside and grinding, and as you weld different places, the metal tries to pull in and out. So I cut this board, and then I have one here for the front to back as well, whenever it comes time to do those pieces and this big large piece. But I wanted to do a quick update. I'm gonna throw it on time lapse. I got the camera right here. You guys are gonna watch over my shoulder, and we're gonna buzz this all together, and hopefully it comes out all right. I am not planning on leaving a welded finished look to any part of this, regardless of how good my welds come out. I don't care. The problem with doing a welded finish look is there's so many places to put a weld, it would just look cluttered. You have the triangle here plus 2 down here, the 2 going this way plus this triangle, this, and angles, and it would end up, you know, on this side you have 2 running down the side. So we're gonna weld it inside and out, like I already started on that corner. And then we are going to sand it flat and file it flat, and the edges are basically gonna look like this small bent. It might not have the straight flats, but yeah, that's the idea is similar to that. I am going to file these edges here around the back, because that is just a flat plate that we're welding on. I am going to file those to be the same roundness as whatever I choose for these. But, so yeah, I guess let's get to welding. I don't know if you can see it, but the torch is literally smoking on my welder. That's because I've been going crazy on this manifold. Man, that thing smells bad. All the insides welded and all the outsides welded. See what I was talking about with the front of this, how it would look? See, I already ground this down, but I'm gonna do like a fast pass with the TIG and some thin wire, and then a sander. I don't think I'm gonna use that, but I think I'm gonna use a regular palm sander and then file it flat. That way all these edges are pristine, But look how busy that looks. Ignore the shitty welds, even if they were good welds. Like, that's just too much going on compared to this is a clean, I mean, again, the lines will be cleaned up. That was just with a flapper disc, but I don't know. I really like it. On a side note, I went to the metal supply place and I got this today out of the scrap bin. That was cool. And then I also got this, which is my sorry, I was ill prepared. This is the same thickness as that. So this will get 6 holes in it, the big ones, and then this plate is going to get welded to it, and then I got to figure out how to make them meet together. So yeah, we'll pick back up whenever I figure that out. Alright, I think that came out pretty alright. I don't remember where I was at on the GoPro, but I still need to like shave this corner and line all the lines up. Like you see, this isn't perfect yet, but it will be. This side I spent a little bit of time on. I need to add a little bit of aluminum here because I fought a little bit too much away. And yeah, I think that's pretty decent. I was gonna round these edges, but I kind of like it the way that they are. So I think we're gonna leave it the way it is. It does hit the hood, but like just barely. So if you look right here, you can see that it's not touching. And it's doing that because the intake manifold is touching ever so much right there, which is fine because I need to machine this down a little bit. And once I weld all this stuff up, I need to machine it flat. So we need to machine this surface, this lower surface, and this surface, which will bring everything down and suck everything lower so that we can clear the hood and not hit anything. I did struggle with this actually really bad. I don't know if I took a clip of it, but I was hitting the coil pack right there with the throttle body, and what I ended up having to do was fill these holes and bend the entire plate in. You can see it if you really pay attention. It's the throttle body slanted down now, and it's actually kind of rotated like this ever so slightly so that everything clears that coil pack and the valve cover. And I still had to sand the valve cover as well and the throttle body to get everything to clear. I do have a time-lapse picture or video of me drilling one of the holes on this. It sucks. It's 1.25 inches thick, 6061 aluminum. The plate was very expensive, and sorry, I gotta set that down. And I already screwed up once when I drilled and tapped it there and drilled it here, and I had to spin it and flip it and drill it again, tap it again. So hopefully we get it right, because yeah, it was very expensive for that piece of aluminum, and I don't want to have to buy another one. I don't know if I said last but not least, but this actually is the last but not least thing. I cannot weld that anymore. My TIG torch is only rated for 150 amps. My welder is rated for 225. It is a Primeweld 225X. It will weld this aluminum if I preheat it in the oven and I keep a heat source on it, i.e. propane or a heat gun or a heat plate or something on the back side of it. But the torch is literally smoking whenever I weld on it. I think I already showed a clip of that. If I didn't, I will now. And yeah, so I have to buy a water-cooled torch, and they're not very cheap, so I'm gonna have to hold off like a few weeks, and then we'll get that done, and then I'll be able to weld some more. I don't know if I showed, but there was a tiny bow in this, and I wanted to show what it looks like right now while I'm trying to bend it back out. I have a couple little clamps. I'm using this one to clamp it tight, and then tighten up this one, and then tighten up this one, and back and forth to get it to where it's, I mean, I got 1/4 inch spacer there, and it's almost touching here. I have a socket and 2 12-inch pry bars or extensions on here to try and get it to be back straight again. So we'll see what happens. I tried doing a thing that online said and put it in the oven at 400 degrees for like half an hour with it clamped about half this tension, and it didn't do anything. So we might be just filling it and then sanding it flat to make it look good. I don't know. Alright, that's what I got for a flange for this manifold, the upper to bolt down to the lower. I bought these 10mm or 10/6 bolts, stainless. They go from underneath, so it'll actually be like hidden. I put just a tiny bit underneath there. I haven't decided how many I'm gonna put yet, but the flange is the size that it is because I decided I'm not using a gasket. We're gonna use O-ring. You can buy this stuff on eBay or Amazon, just O-ring. You can buy it by the foot with like the glue to bond them together and make your own O-rings and everything. So I think with serviceability and, you know, if I'm on the dyno and I need to do something, or if I need to service the car or something like that, I have to pull the intake off. I don't want to have to deal with silicone. That's something that like plagued me with the old setup. It was so bad every time I wanted to take it off. So yep, that's where we're at now. I got a few more days before I can order my new TIG torch, so I guess that's the update for the minute. want everyone to hear this horrific noise. Also, look how gross this is. This aluminum is everywhere. It has ruined my entire shop. But this is the noise that you get to hear. Each one of these holes takes about an hour and a half of this. All right, so that's what we ended up with when we were finally done. I did take my gasket here and I put it on there, and as you can see, I drew. So the holes are 44 millimeters in the runners, but they're not round. I don't know if you can see that on video, but they're not round. So what I did was I used a, yeah, look how much that saved me. I used a 1 3/4 inch, it's upside down, but you can see it, it's 44 millimeters, hole saw bit to drill these holes. Now, I did that because I planned on taking this, which is a fancy router bit that I got. This is actually meant for like machining, going in a machine. I'll try and get that information if anyone's interested. But so I did the lines, and then as you can see, I started working on this one. You can see how much I milled there. And then you can also see where I got greedy and the bit caught and chewed it up pretty bad. So I was running all the way up against the line, which I don't think I'm going to do for the rest of them, or even this one the rest of the way, but I will end up micrometering them all out so that they are all identical in size. I just don't think that I need to push it right to the limit starting off. We'll work our way up there slowly. I do have to say, if you're going to do something like this, don't do it the way I did it, because this is just miserable grossness. Like, you saw me grab that tape, and you can, aluminum dust, it gets in the oil and then it just sticks to everything. Like, this t-shirt has already been through the wash. So that t-shirt is smoked. I was gonna weigh all this because, again, well, I didn't actually say this. I kind of wanted to know what I removed from it, milling it all out. But at this point, it's all sticky and gross, and I kind of just want it out of my shop because it is everywhere. It is just, I mean, like, look at the floor. All those black spots are from slung oil aluminum. So yeah, don't do that. I'm gonna actually, to use the router, because it does hit flings more aluminum, go figure, I'm actually gonna build like a little enclosure and a box with like a light and stuff so that I can work it without it being in open air and flinging aluminum everywhere, because that ain't working. All right, so as you saw in the time lapses, I did some welding. The lower portion is together. The upper portion now has the flange in it. I have drilled and tapped 4 on this side. I'm gonna put a 5th here, and I'm gonna put another one here, and then this center one's gonna be a stud sticking down. You'll put a nut after everything's together. There will be another one here, sorry, here, that one, another one there. I wanted to do this video because I wanted to show I already did this. I will cut this short, and then I decided I was going to make this surface the same surface as this so that the throttle body just sealed on both of them, but I realized that was going to be almost an impossible task, and my flange inside there is pretty big for my O-ring, which we also went to a larger O-ring. I'm doing a 1/8 inch O-ring now instead of, so we're going to that over the one next to it. I already have the bits to do it. But I think I'm gonna grind this all down, cut it back about 1/8 of an inch, and then weld on here a surface for the throttle body to seal to. And then I have to cut it in half because I made a mistake, and as you can see here, the lower is square, but the upper is in about 1/8 of an inch. And for most people, it wouldn't bother them. They would just grind that flat. And I really did debate on doing that for like 3 months. Like, I've been working on this since August of last year. It is now April. Sorry, it's now March. And we're coming up on April. Hopefully we'll be done by April. Anyways, I have to cut that. I cannot leave this here. That lip is not acceptable. You will notice it compared to that back edge, or at least I will. So I'm gonna fix it. So when we're gonna come back, this will be a surface, and then this will be kicked out and smooth with this. All right, so I cut it off there. See? Mistakes were made. We're gonna put it back on. All right, this is what we ended up with. So, I started putting this stuff together. I talked earlier about bolt locations, and I did put those bolts here and here, and I was going to put one there and there, but then I realized once this is together, you wouldn't be able to get a bolt out of there. Here you can, but it's very difficult. And on the back side, I mean, you can see I already welded them back up. You can't. Same thing here. So yeah, we welded all that back up. I ground some of it down. I have to re-weld where this was a little bit of cracking because it was not enough heat put in it when I welded it the first time, and I ground it all down. On the other note, I did this, I cut it off, and then this surface is nice and pretty now, and there's plenty of space for the throttle body. There was a low spot here and I didn't like it, so I welded that up. These were bolt holes, same thing, not enough penetration with the weld, so I had to go back and put a little bit more in there. As you can see, the front, I mean, my welds suck, but it's all welded back together. So I will show here in a, well, it'll only be a minute for you guys, everything fitting back together, but I need to grind the surface down before we have a full fit finish. And I added a little bit of material on this corner as well. So yeah, I'll be back in a minute. All right, so I'm working on this intake manifold still, and I had commented and said I was going to use O-rings on it. And as you'll see from the time lapse that I took, I only took one. It was only about a minute long, so you might only get like 4 seconds. Either way, I tried to run my router. So time lapse camera, and then I bought this bit. It's supposed to be a machinist bit. You can see how deep I was using it. But this is what it came out like, and obviously I'm trying to hand machine this stuff, but after just doing these corners, like around the holes, these 6, the bit's destroyed. It's actually curling the aluminum at that very edge right there. So from that edge right there in, I'm sorry, my phone's not really, that is supposed to be a straight surface like this other wall, and it's not. The manifold is that large. That bit was like $20, and I only got about 6 inches out of it before the bit died. And honestly, I'm not doing a very good job. I'm very shaky, and I'm not steady enough to make it look good. The other problem that I had is this front hole right here is deeper on this side than it was on this side. The O-ring doesn't actually fit smooth or like flush, but it does seal. I just don't think the effort's there, and I think I'm going to go through about $200 worth of bits trying to machine it, and it's still not going to seal right. So unfortunately, I think we're going back to silicone. Yay. So not really something that I wanted, but you know, it kind of is what it is. I can only do so much, and I'm gonna tell myself that it's Nissan-like to have 2 machined surfaces, like the front cover and just silicone in between them. And that's how I'm gonna justify using silicone on my intake manifold that I've been working on since like August, and I absolutely didn't want to use silicone on, but here I am. It's gonna be May in a few days, so yeah, silicone it is, I guess. there it is. I only did the upper because I still need to do the runners and stuff on the lower, and I need to make vacuum sources for the master cylinder and the blow-off valve, boost reference for the ECU and the fuel pressure regulator. One thing I did do that you'll notice in the time lapse is I did this semi-glass. I did that on accident, and that's why it's a little bit more glossy than usual, because I did that and I left it in the oven until the part got to 400, because that's what you're supposed to do. I even used my fancy little gun to look at the temperature, and then I realized that that was not my wrinkle black, and it kind of ruined my intake manifold. So I'm not really happy with the amount of wrinkle that it did, but at the same time, it's about the same as the cover. So that'll have to do for now. I think it came out all right.